Hello and welcome back to the Scavenger Entertainment channel. So, first of all, something that some of you guys might have been wondering is where I've been on my channel for the last week or so. I have been I have been busy. Well, not really. Well, for one, my recording program was a bit. It bugged out for it, so I couldn't get to record for a little bit of time, and I'm sorry for that. And two, I actually I actually want to record some of Hearthstone, which is the game that you see right now on my channel. I want to record this because I actually like this game a lot. I'm not that good at it. Admittedly, I don't really play it that much either, but I like playing this game. And yes, I'm going to start off by making a Shaman deck. So I'll basically in this video just show a bit of art creation. And first of all, I'm not very good at constructed playing card games. I don't really know that much about the best way to make a deck, and I don't really have all of the cards to do that, because I have some cards that aren't the normal ones, like South Sea Deckhand and Shield Bearer, all of these cards, but I don't have that many of like epics or legendary. Well, not that many epics, and don't have legendaries that you see quite often when you look at other YouTubers' videos of this. But I basically just want to show you guys a bit about Hearthstone if you're wondering, and might as well get right into this. So let's just start off with this. Yes, I want to make a deck that's going to, I guess, improve each other. So Flame Tongue Totem is a very good card for a deck that improves other cards, because it is a card with 0 attack and free health, 0 free, that gives adjacent minions +2 attack. That means only my minions, not the enemy minions, in case you know that. Then let's take Feral Spirits. It summons 2/2 free Wolves of Taunt. Admittedly, it doesn't buff much, but it's a nice little protection card to have. Good in the sticky situation, and if you have nothing else really to play. And Hex, just a card you need as a Shaman, a very good removal. Makes something a 0/1 taunt against the hunter. I think that's a beast, but that doesn't make much of a difference. Only if they have like a Timberwolf or something like that, which would make it a 1/1, but that's not much different than a sheep with taunt. So Fort Lightning is also quite a good removal spell. It is basically cleave, but for 1 mana less, but it will take your next turn up. But I think that instead of that, I'm going to take Earth Shock. At first, it may not sound that powerful, just 1 damage, but it silences a minion. Something that there isn't much of in this game, and it can be very useful against some cards like the Garabashi Berserker, a 2/7 for 5 mana, which doesn't sound that powerful limitedly. It's only a little bit of damage, and for a turn 5, that's not that powerful, but every time it takes damage, it gets 3 more attacks. So if you're, for example, a mage, you can use your hero power, or every turn, and suddenly the next turn, it's a 5/6, because you dealt 1 damage to it, and it's a 8/5. If you're a priest, you can just run it into some weaker minion that your enemy has, and then you can just heal him back up. So in the end, you might have something ridiculous like a 14/7, which is very powerful. But it also I find myself doing is I try to get a bit greedy, and I often get the guy killed before I actually get a proper attack with him. Let's see then. The Wind Speaker, I might take him if I don't have many cards left, because like, a free for 4 mana, that isn't a very good value. For 3 mana, you can get like a free taunt, which is already better stats than this guy, but once he is summoned, he will give something Wind Fury, which lets him attack twice, and that is actually that can actually be pretty powerful on some things like the Fire Elemental, a 6/5, and if he can attack twice, that's or 8, and your enemy doesn't have any minions on the board. 6 damage is already a fifth of a player's health, and if that's 12 damage on the board, that's not something to laugh about. It's 2/5 of their health per turn. So, and also, speaking of fire elementals, I'm going to take 2 of them because they are actually very good value in my opinion. And sure, a 6/5 for 6 mana, so it may not seem that amazing. The Boulder Fist is a 6/7 for 6 mana. But the Fire Elemental, for the 2 health he doesn't have, as a Battle Cry, he does 3 damage, which lets him quite often trade 2 for 1, or sometimes even a 3 for 1, because he is a minion with a pretty strong minion with a pretty strong removal. That's basically a Frostbolt without the freeze attached to a 6/5. I can't really come up with one off the top of my head. And then let's get a Rockbiter weapon, or actually 2 of these, because for 1 mana, like giving a character plus 3 attack this turn may not seem that powerful. It's just plus 3 attack, and that's just 1 turn. But that can let you get some pretty good trades in for something that you don't deserve to really get. For example, a Goldshire Footman is a 1/2 taunt, and if your enemy has something like I'm gonna quickly look for one of those because I can't come up with one off the top of my head. But if they have, let's say for example, an Ancient Brewmaster, a 5/4, you put a Rockbiter on the Goldshire Footman, run him into a Brewmaster, and even though you gave your enemy a 2 for 1, you did pay 2 mana for something that he only paid 4 mana for. But a better use of it would just be as a direct removal, where you, for example, would take out Iron for Grizzly, and even though you take 3 damage, it does give you that extra bit of board control if you want to protect something on the board. And then let's see. These are probably the only Shaman cards I want to take. As I said, I might get take the Wind Speaker or Wind Fury as a spell actually. Yeah. But let's go to the other cards first to see what they. So first of all, let's look at the mana curve. We have quite a that's not that many ones, admittedly. And if you look at it, we need some minions for 1 mana. So let's get, like I said, the Goldshire Footman, because admittedly a 1/2. In fact, never mind. I think that honestly it would probably be better to get some Shield Bearers, and I wouldn't be surprised if lots of people see them as weak, considering they don't have any attack value. But 4 health and taunt isn't exactly something that your enemy can get through that easily. Yeah, it is basically the Mage's Mirror Image, but a neutral one, because what the Mage's Mirror Image does is it summons 2 0/2 taunts for 1 mana as well. And that may actually seem better, 2 0/2s, because it splits its that into 2 creatures, and you can buff it up with, for example, the Direwolf Alpha, which I think I'm actually going to take as well, because that's basically a Flame Tongue Totem with 1 less health and 2 more attack. But he also isn't as efficient as Flame Tongue Totem, I guess. But the Shield Bearer, he can actually take a bigger punch. So, for example, if your enemy has the free taunt, the Iron for Grizzly, and you only have a 0/4 Shield Bearer, your enemy's gonna think they can get past it in one, just with that Iron for in 1 or 2 turns, without needing to lose it. But then, for example, you can pull a Rockbiter weapon, put it on the shield bearer, you trade a that for that, and suddenly you still have a 0-1 taunt on the board, and his free taunt is gone. So you pretty much trade a 1-for-1, but it's a much better trade on your part, because it's just a 1-mana card that isn't exactly meant. And to do something spectacular, it's more meant to give you a better trade. And then let's see what else. Well, we also want some draw in this deck, because something that you'll find in Hearthstone quite often is that decks do not have that much draw. Well, not that you'll find it quite often, but that you will need quite a lot of draw. Because if you only get one card per turn, then you're not going to have a very good time, considering you'll usually be forced to play more than one card per turn when you get into late game, and you don't want to be top decking in the end when you just wait for a card to come and you hope it's the right card. And the Acolyte Pain, I'm not sure if that's a very good idea, because even though he can get a couple of good cards out, he's not very good value. Admittedly, the Novice Engineer, a 1-1 for 2 mana is also very bad value, but the fact that you draw a card is pretty good. And for 3 mana, a 1-3, yes, that's stronger than the Novice Engineer. And yes, that's usually going to be a guaranteed card, or you can possibly lure out a silence on him, which isn't that usual, because the Acolyte of Pain isn't a very big advantage to have. But if you can't really buff him, which actually is a point of this deck, he isn't a very good value card. He's a 1-3 for 3 mana, something that you can get for 2 mana with something structured like Mana Addict, which whenever you cast a spell will get +2 attack. And actually, looking at the Nerubian Egg, a 0-2 for 2 mana. Admittedly, not many people would find a use for that, but the thing that makes it so powerful is when it dies, it will summon a 4-4. And that is very threatening if you can manage to kill it, especially if you can manage to kill it on the turn it's summoned, which isn't very likely, but it's possible. And this deck, he would actually be very good, because if you can give him an attack value, you can run him into something that's stronger than him, which will weaken that, and then you suddenly have a 4-4. You can suddenly have a 4-4 on the board. And I might actually take the Acolyte of Pain as well, just because of the fact that you can buff him. And then Harvest Golem, excellent value. Well, you can argue about that he might actually be a 4-4 for 3 mana, but harder to kill as well. But sadly, I think it won't be able to take him in this deck, because he won't really improve my other cards, which is basically the entire point into this deck, which creates a lot of synergy in between them. But the Raid Leader, kind of arguable if he's a good value card or not. He's a 2-2 for 3 mana, worse than some of the things you can get for 2 mana. If you look like a 2-3 River Crocolisk, it's also a beast, so hunters can have a lot of fun with those things. But the Raid Leader will give your other minions +1 attack, which most of the time can actually be very situational. But if you are playing a heavy control deck, then he can actually come in quite handy, because he will let you trade he will sometimes let you trade a 1-mana creature for even a 3-mana creature. Because something that has 2 attack for 1 mana, when in the given +1 attack, will be able to trade for something like the Iron for Grizzly. Yeah, and then the Shattered Sun Cleric, not really that good value on its own. 2 health, that's quite easy to get rid of. There are a lot of ways to deal with this. A Warlock's Drain Life, a Murloc Raider, a 2-1 for 1 mana. So usually this card on its own wouldn't trade very well, But the fact that it gives something else +1/+1 is actually pretty nice, because that's actually, you know, basically a 1 mana stat increase. But I think we can't really take that one because we don't have much space in the deck anymore. We can only have 8 more cards. Then there are cards like the Defender of Argus, something I wish I would have more of, because 2/3 for 4 mana, absolutely horrible stats. For 2 mana you get that and a beast. The fact that it's a beast letting you upgrade it even further. But the fact that it gives adjacent minions +1/+1, so basically, yeah, a twice the effect of the Shattered Sun Cleric, and that it gives them taunt can be very good on, let's say, the Nerubian Egg. Suddenly that 0/2 that has to be killed is a 1/3. Well, that doesn't have to be killed, is a 1/3 that they are forced to kill, which will after that trade into being a 4/4, which will give it much better trades. So I really wish I would have more of these, but I don't. But then, a Cult Master, I'll probably replace him when I get to, like, a second Defender of Argus. But getting that a chance for additional card draw, which might not come in too handy, might actually be pretty useful. And then, Gnomish Inventor just for some card draw. Oh, really? But let's not take 2 of those, because honestly those stats are horrible. You don't really want a 2/4 for 4 mana just to draw a card. Well, you don't want 2 of them. Depending on the deck, I guess. Yeah. Then there are things like the Oasis Snapjaw. Combine that with a Defender of Argus. The 2/7 that usually seems quite bad is a 3/8 that must be killed. I'm not going to take both of those because it's very situational. But he can be quite useful. I'll give him that. And then let's see what else there is. The Spellbreaker, a 4/3 for 4 mana. Admittedly, not the best. A Chillwind Yeti, very good value in, for example, the arena. In constructed play, I guess it depends, because 4 attack, that's that magic number against the priest. They can kill anything with 3 or less than 5 or more attack. So basically, this is just the, yeah, this is the anti-priest number, and then 5 health. Like, that's honestly a great number against spells, because it's hard to avoid at least a little bit of overkill when you see something with 5 health. Because, for example, the Shadow Bolt on its own will not be able to trade for that. That just does 4 damage. You'll still have a 4/1 on the board. Or the Frostbolt will just make it a Frozen 4/2, which on your next turn you will get a 2/1 on. Which is something very good about him, because he trades quite well. But there isn't enough place in this deck, sadly, because it's a very good card. Then the Frostwolf Warlord. Well, actually before that, the Spellbreaker was what we were talking about. A 4/3 for 4 mana, that's 2 less health than the Chillwind Yeti. But silence is something very rare. Very rare. And getting something like this is very nice, because he doesn't exactly trade 2 for 1, but I guess you could say trades 1.5 for 1, because there are some cards that get extremely just destroyed by a silence. For example, Maexna for 6 mana, 2/8. Horrible stats. 4 attack less than the Boulder Fist Ogre, and only 1 health more. But the fact that it destroys anything that it damages is pretty good, and because it has 8 health, it is very hard to take down, which means she can trade quite well. Then if you silence her, she isn't worth 6 mana. I'm not sure if that's even worth 4 mana at 2/8. Hey, it's a like really on its own a 2/8 taunt might be worth it for a hunter, admittedly, because combined with a Hound Master, that can become a 4/10 and taunt. Yeah. Now then, the Frostwolf Warlord. 4/4 for 5 mana. Again, bad stats, but the thing with this guy is his stats just can go to all hell. Really, I believe they can actually go up to 11/11 if you have actually no, I'm talking about 10/10 if you have 6 creatures on the field, which probably isn't very likely with this deck. But it has a lot of buffs, and that's going to make some of these guys quite hard to kill. Meaning this guy will have a lot of fun when he comes into play. And actually, sadly, I think that there's a Gurabashi. Here's a good example of him here. Very good card. Very good value, but similar to Maxna, if silenced, just completely useless. Yeah, I think that will do for this card deck, and in the next episode, I will play a round or two, maybe also free, to see how this works. So see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.